Alright, so to begin the Kotlin object-oriented programming journey, I talked about classes, which is used as the blueprint for the creation of objects. But we will now talk about another type of class, which is the abstract class. So first, an abstract class cannot be used to create an instance of an object. So like how we had before with this apartment class, which holds, different properties and methods, we can't create an instance of it by passing in values in the constructor and making this variable called apartment to hold the instance of that object. It's not possible to abstract class. So what's so special about an abstract class? Well, let's create one first and then we'll talk about it step by step. So first we'll just make another Kotlin class. We'll call it building details because I want to define some building details about the one that we created. And then now to make this class abstract, all you got to do is put the keyword abstract in front of it. So now we have an abstract class. So now we can start defining some abstract class properties and methods. Now, by default, any property in an abstract class is non-abstract. So to override it, we either have to declare it as open or we can create it as abstract, which by default abstract properties and methods are open. So let's create an abstract property. So we're gonna call this abstract and we're gonna make this a file with the floor amount of the building because we want to know like how many floors the building has, and we'll make this an int. So the first thing about an abstract property or method is that they cannot be implemented. I can't make this equal to 0 to give it a default value. That's not possible because it's abstract. Only the subclass that's inheriting from building details can implement it. So if something is, or if a subclass is inheriting from building details, it has to implement the abstract properties and methods. You cannot go without, implementing them. So let's create another abstract, let's use the abstract keyword again, but we're going to use it to make a method. So we're going to make this fun, and then we're going to make building prompts, and this is going to be used to welcome guests into the building. But again, this can't be implemented because it is abstract. Alright, but an abstract class can contain abstract and non-abstract properties. So we could have let me see, what's a good, let's do var window type, and we're gonna make this a string. Maybe it's impact, and by default we'll just make this empty. This is possible just because we're in an abstract class. Like I said before, all properties inside the class properties by default are non-abstract. So to override it, or if you want to override it, we have to place it as open. But because it's non-abstract, it's not using the abstract keyword, we could implement it. So for now I'm just making it as an empty string, and whoever inherits from this building details class can implement it from, or can override it from the original empty string. So an abstract class is perfect if you're going to have subclasses that will need to define certain properties and methods for sure, because by default you have to implement the abstract properties and methods. And let's make sure that I'm telling the truth. Let's go into building, right? And to inherit from an abstract class, you just do like we did before with an open, with a parent class. You just do in the colon and then you put the name of the file you're trying to inherit from, or the class that you're trying to inherit from. So in this case, we want to inherit from this abstract class building details. Now you're gonna see some squiggly lines. So first let's put in the primary constructor. But you're gonna see some squiggly lines up here from IntelliJ saying that class building is not abstract and does not implement abstract base class member floor mounts, and also because building details have this building prompt that's also abstract, we need to implement that as well. Now it's saying it's not abstract as well. Now if we made this abstract, we wouldn't have to implement it because it's also abstract. So we can also have abstract properties inside of it and non-abstract properties. So that's why these still work. And apartments still work because it's you know, it's still inheriting from building, so everything will still work. But now that it's not, now that the apartment is not abstract, it will have to implement the things that, you know, building is inheriting from, which is everything from building details. So it'll pretty much start a chain. So let's remove this as abstract. Let's make this open, and let's just implement what they want us to implement. So let's override the floor mount, and we're not going to use the getters and setters. We're just going to make this equal to 0 as well. Whoops. And we're going to override the building prompt as well, and we're just going to print out welcome to, and then we're just going to do welcome to my building. So boom, now you know for sure, and this error goes away, that if you want to have a class that holds properties and methods that, you know, whoever inherits from it will for sure implement those properties and methods, or have to implement those properties and methods, an abstract class is perfect for that, because it creates a dependency that can't be ignored. But the thing is, a subclass can only have one abstract class. So we can't define multiple abstract classes and use multiple and just put a comma and just use another one. You can only have one. So make sure whatever you need is within the abstract class. But like I showed before, there could be a chaining type of thing. So if necessary, that can be done with multiple abstract classes. Alright, so we got the value from building details, and we overridden it and implemented it just like the abstract class wanted, or the abstract property and method wanted. But what if we want to use it in the apartment class? Well, we still got to go through the same process. So to get the floor amount, we could just override it again. So we're going to do override val, and then, well, let me just put a comma, override val floor amount, right? And then we got to go back into our, you know, instance of apartment and, you know, add that property or that parameter. But then let's make that prompt for the building as well. So let's override, right? And then let's put the function of building, and, you know, we're just going to use the instance that building prompt originally have, which is welcome to my building. And if you want to add your own, you know, name to apartments, the apartment primary constructor, and then use that name, like welcome to my beautiful estates, or whatever the name of your apartment is. You know, apartments have names. Then you can do that as well. But in this case, I'm just going to use the version that I created in my parent class. And now it should be good. Now I just got to go back to my main, and I believe I put it right here. So I just got to put how many floors does this apartment have. I'm going to define it as 3, and look, floor amount is 3, price is 200,000. You guys could do this floor amount equal if you want to make sure, as if your constructor is getting big like this, you can do that as well, just to make sure you're putting in the right values. But, you know, luckily IntelliJ is smart enough so I can see the name right next to it. But if you want to make it clean, you could put the name of the parameter. Up to you. But let's run this. Let's do apartment dot building prompt. Run this. And then boom, welcome to my building. It takes the, because we're using super, like we learned before, or let me find the file. Because we're using super, we're just taking the version of the parent class, and just to show that I'm getting the proper floor amount, let me just print that out as well. Print ln, and then apartment dot floor amount, and we can make this private if we wanted to, or protected, whatever you guys want. But just for show, you can see that, you know, I'm passing in 3 as floor amount, and I'm able to get that value. Now, if you don't want to be able to retrieve, you know, floor amount like we just did, we can just go to building details, and we can just make this floor amounts protected. So now only the subclasses and the place that is created can see floor amount. So if I go back to the main, now it's showing the red squiggly. Can I access floor amount? It is protected. And you shouldn't make it private because it's open, and other classes gotta override it. So private is not an option. So protected is perfect for this case when you're gonna have subclasses that inherit from building details and building. So this is perfect, but now we can't do this anymore. But building prompt is still an option, and we're still able to pass in the value to floor amount. So this is abstract classes. This is how you can use them. Remember, you can only inherit from one abstract class, but you can create this chaining effect. So if possible, like I showed before, you can have this abstract class, you can make building abstract, and then you can have class inherit from building, and then you have to implement it to abstract properties or whatever abstract properties that you define in apartments. And I can keep going and going and going and going until you have your class that you want to inherit all those properties that you created. So you just got to figure out, do you need a abstract class to hold properties and methods that you want for sure to be implemented? So think about it and play with it.